Stoicism and the art of not caring. Mastering emotional detachment with clarity. There comes a moment in every journey when external success no longer satisfies the soul. You've followed the rules, checked the boxes, and yet something still feels missing. This video isn't about telling you what to do. It's an invitation to go inward. Using the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and psychological insight, we'll explore why, even when we achieve everything society tells us to want, we still feel lost. But there's another way, a path that leads not outward, but inward. This is for those who are tired of chasing and ready to listen, ready to sit with their own questions, their pain, and their truth. Awake Within is not just a channel. It's a space for deep thinking, emotional healing, and inner clarity. If you've ever asked yourself, is this all there is? Stay with us. Your real journey may just be beginning. The origin of wounds. Human nature and the craving for control. We are born into this world with a hunger we cannot name. Vulnerable, fragile, and confused, we stumble into life without a map, sensing something is missing, but unsure what it is. From a young age, we are taught to chase after things to fill this void. We are told that if we can just succeed, acquire enough, and become someone of importance, we might finally feel whole. So we run. We chase approval, recognition, possession, status. We build lives around the hope that someday when we have enough, the emptiness will stop speaking. But the more we run, the more distant peace seems. Deep down, many of us carry a quiet pain, one that no accomplishment can touch. It is not just about what we lack materially. It is a deeper thirst, a longing to feel safe in ourselves, a craving to make sense of the chaos within and around us. This wound is universal yet rarely spoken of. Instead, we are encouraged to keep achieving, to keep reaching outward. But what if our constant striving is not the cure but the symptom? What if the real path begins when we stop running and finally turn inward? In this space of stillness, we may begin to hear the truth beneath the noise, that we are not broken, that we are not empty, that healing does not come from control, but from understanding, and perhaps from learning to be with ourselves as we are. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy for a chaotic age. In times of great uncertainty and emotional turmoil, we often search for something solid to hold on to. Stoicism is one such anchor. Born in ancient Greece and refined in Rome, Stoicism is a philosophy built not on abstract speculation, but on practical wisdom. It teaches us how to face the unpredictable, how to remain calm in chaos, and how to find stability within ourselves when the world offers none. For centuries, Stoicism has quietly guided warriors, rulers, and thinkers through some of the most difficult human experiences. Its endurance is not by accident. Stoicism gives voice to something timeless. It does not promise to erase suffering. Instead, it offers a way to meet life as it is. In a world obsessed with control and constant change, the Stoics ask us to pause. They invite us to consider what truly belongs to us and what does not. They urge us to focus not on changing the world, but on changing how we meet it. Their questions are still deeply relevant today. What can I control? What must I accept? What kind of person do I wish to be, even in hardship? Stoicism is not a cold detachment. It is a brave return to the self. It is a quiet, steady strength that whispers through the noise of modern life. And perhaps in rediscovering it, we may begin to hear our own voice more clearly. Two realms, what we can control and what we cannot. Stoicism begins with a simple yet powerful distinction. There are things we can control and there are things we cannot. Our thoughts, our actions, our responses, our choices, these belong to us. The weather, the opinions of others, the passage of time, and the events of the world, these do not. Much of human suffering comes from blurring this line. We invest energy into changing things that lie beyond our reach, and we grow anxious when they do not bend to our will. The Stoics teach us to return to what is ours. When we recognize the limits of our control, we stop fighting with reality. We begin to find peace not by fixing the world, but by mastering how we move through it. This does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming wise. By focusing on our inner life, our values, intentions, and reactions, we gain clarity and power. We become less shaken by external chaos and more grounded in inner calm. This shift is not easy. It asks us to give up illusions of control and to take full responsibility for our own minds. But in doing so, we reclaim the only freedom that is truly ours. In a noisy and unstable world, this quiet distinction becomes a compass. And when we begin to live by it, we move with a different strength. Not the strength to control everything, but the strength to remain whole no matter what happens. Chasing success when happiness is placed in the wrong things. We are taught to believe that happiness lies somewhere ahead of us. If we work hard enough, if we earn more, if we become more admired or powerful, then we will finally be fulfilled. This belief is deeply rooted in our culture and often goes unchallenged. But the Stoics saw the danger in this pursuit. They observed that when we tie our well-being to things outside our control, we become fragile. Success, wealth, fame, recognition, all these things are uncertain and temporary. If our peace depends on them, our peace is always at risk. The Stoics did not say we should reject ambition or achievement. Instead, they asked us to examine the reasons behind our desires. Are we chasing something because it aligns with our values or because we are trying to fill a void? Are we acting from purpose or from fear? When we believe that happiness exists only in the future, we miss the chance to experience it now. We become trapped in a cycle of endless striving, always reaching, never arriving. The Stoic path is different. It teaches us that true contentment does not come from the outcome, but from the way we engage with the moment. It is not wrong to succeed, but it is unwise to depend on success for our worth. When we learn to find meaning in the act itself and to let go of the craving for results, we begin to free ourselves. We stop living to prove and start living to be. In that shift, we may discover the kind of joy that no achievement can give or take away. The journey of inner discipline in the spirit of Stoicism. To live well is not to live without difficulty. It is to face difficulty with strength that comes from within. Stoicism teaches that our greatest power lies in how we choose to respond. Life will always bring discomfort, pain, and uncertainty. We cannot prevent storms, but we can prepare ourselves to meet them. The Stoic path is one of practice. Like training the body, the mind must be trained through discipline. Not through force or denial, but through clarity and intention. Inner discipline is not about suppressing emotion. It is about creating space between feeling and reaction. It is the art of not being ruled by impulse. When something provokes us, we pause. When fear rises, we observe it without becoming it. This does not happen overnight. It requires daily effort, a commitment to awareness and reflection. Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus wrote not as masters but as students of their own minds. They returned each day to their journals to examine their thoughts and refine their character. In this practice, we see that strength is not coldness, but consistency. Courage is not absence of fear, but movement through it. Discipline becomes not a cage, but a path to freedom. By turning inward, we do not escape life, we meet it more fully. And in doing so, we begin to build a self that can weather the world with grace, steadiness, and quiet power. Stolen time, the forgotten treasure. There is one resource more valuable than wealth, fame, or power. It is time. Unlike other possessions, time cannot be earned back once spent. Each moment that passes is lost forever. And yet we treat time carelessly as if it were endless. We waste it on distractions, on worry, on chasing things that do not truly matter. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warned us about this. He wrote that people are frugal with their money but wasteful with their time. We guard our possessions, yet give away our hours to meaningless habits and shallow concerns. We say we will live fully later when things are easier or when we have more, but later often becomes never. Stoicism calls us to reclaim our time, not by filling every hour with work, but by bringing presence to what we do. To walk deliberately, to listen deeply, to speak thoughtfully, to value each day as a rare gift, not a guarantee. This shift does not require grand change. It asks for awareness. When we treat time as sacred, we begin to live with greater care. We stop postponing meaning for a future that may never come. We realize that the present is not preparation for life, it is life itself. In this realization, we may discover that we do not need more time. We need to use the time we have with intention. That is how we begin to truly live. Good or bad, it all depends on how we see it. Most people believe that events themselves are what make us happy or miserable. We win and feel joy. We lose and feel pain. But the Stoics challenge this idea. They argue that events are neutral. It is our interpretation that gives them meaning. What we call good or bad is not about the event itself, but about the story we tell ourselves. This shift in perspective is powerful. It means that we are not at the mercy of fate. We are not victims of what happens, but participants in how we experience it. A delay can be seen as an inconvenience or as a moment to pause. A failure can feel like the end or like the start of something wiser. This is not about denying pain or pretending all is well. It is about learning to see more clearly. When we understand that our thoughts shape our feelings, we gain freedom. We can choose how to frame what happens to us. The Stoics trained their minds to respond with reason, not reaction. They knew that lasting peace comes not from perfect circumstances, but from steady character. Our emotions are real, but they are not final truths. We can question them. We can slow down before believing every thought. In this space between event and reaction, we find our power. It is here that we decide what kind of life we will live and what kind of person we will be. Living in harmony with nature. merging with the order of the universe. The Stoics believed that to live well is to live in alignment with nature. But this does not mean walking through forests or avoiding technology. It means understanding that we are part of a greater whole. Just as the river flows and the stars move in silence, we too are part of the vast order of the universe. Much of our suffering comes from resisting what is. We wish the world were different. We demand that life go according to our plans. But nature does not bend to our desires. It follows its own rhythm. When we accept this, we stop fighting reality. We begin to see that events do not happen to us, but happen with us. We are not separate from the world. We are expressions of it. This acceptance does not make us weak. It makes us wise. It teaches us to flow with life instead of against it. Like a tree that bends with the wind, we remain rooted yet flexible. This perspective brings calm. It allows us to face change, loss, and uncertainty with greater peace. The Stoics did not seek to control nature, but to understand it and to live in cooperation with it. When we align our actions with this deeper order, we begin to experience a different kind of strength. Not the power to force outcomes, but the resilience to remain steady no matter what the world brings. Stoicism in the modern world and the widespread anxiety crisis. In today's world, we are surrounded by noise. Advertisements scream that we are not enough unless we buy more, achieve more, become more. Social media invites constant comparison, making us feel behind no matter what we do. We are pressured to succeed, to impress, to never show weakness. In this environment, anxiety flourishes. We are restless not because something is wrong with us, but because the world trains us to chase without rest. Stoicism offers a powerful counterpoint. It teaches us that we do not need to follow the crowd. We do not need to measure our worth by likes, titles, or possessions. The Stoics remind us that true peace comes from within, not from external validation. Their wisdom is more needed now than ever. In a time of digital overwhelm, Stoicism calls us back to stillness. In a culture of urgency, it teaches patience. In a society of appearance, it values character. Practicing Stoicism today is an act of quiet rebellion. It is choosing depth over noise, substance over image, and integrity over approval. This path is not easy, but in walking it, we may begin to find clarity amid confusion and calm in the storm. Stoicism does not remove the chaos, but it changes how we meet it, and that change can be enough to transform a life. True values living without relying on others' perceptions. In a world driven by opinions, it is easy to lose ourselves in the need to be seen, approved, and validated. We often shape our choices around how others might react rather than what we truly believe. But the Stoics invite us to build a life grounded in inner values, not public image. They ask us to live with honesty, courage, humility, and wisdom, regardless of who is watching. When we live to impress, we become actors in someone else's script. Our happiness rises and falls with the applause of others. But when we live from within, we begin to reclaim our life. This does not mean becoming indifferent or isolated. It means learning to trust our own sense of what is right. The Stoics believed that the only true success is to live in accordance with virtue, not wealth, not fame, not reputation, but the strength to stay true to ourselves in every situation. This requires clarity. It means asking often what matters most. It means letting go of the need to be liked and embracing the need to be real. Living by true values does not promise ease, but it offers depth. It gives us a foundation that does not shake with trends or criticism. In this steadiness, we find a different kind of confidence. Not loud, not boastful, but calm and rooted. And perhaps that is the most lasting kind of strength we can build. Invisible wounds. Embracing pain to begin healing. Not all pain is visible. Some wounds are buried deep beneath the surface, held quietly behind smiles and daily routines. We carry disappointments. We never voiced fears we never named, and losses we never fully grieved. These hidden wounds shape our thoughts, choices, and relationships, often without our awareness. The Stoics did not ignore pain. They faced it directly and taught that true healing begins not by escaping discomfort, but by accepting it. To acknowledge pain is not weakness. It is the first step toward freedom. When we turn toward our wounds with honesty, we begin to reclaim parts of ourselves we had abandoned. The Stoics remind us that suffering is part of the human experience, but it does not define us. What matters is how we respond. Instead of hiding from sorrow, we can learn from it. Instead of numbing ourselves, we can sit in silence and listen. This practice takes courage. It asks us to soften our defenses and allow the truth of our emotions to rise. But in doing so, we create space for healing. We begin to understand that pain is not the enemy. It is a signal pointing us inward, calling us to tend to what we once ignored. When we stop running from pain, we find something unexpected. Not just relief, but resilience. And in that resilience, we discover a self more whole, more present, and more real than we ever thought possible. Awakening from the existential dream. When the outer world loses its meaning. There comes a moment in many lives when the outer world loses its grip. The job, the status, the possessions that once seemed important now feel hollow. We reach what we thought was the goal, only to find it does not fill the emptiness inside. This is not failure. It is an invitation, an awakening. The Stoics understood this moment well. They knew that true meaning is not found in what we accumulate, but in how we live and why we live. When we stop chasing approval and begin listening inward, something shifts. We start asking deeper questions. What is worth my time? What kind of person do I want to become? What legacy do I wish to leave behind? These questions are not signs of despair. They are signs of awakening. A life built only on the surface cannot satisfy a soul that longs for depth. The Stoics did not offer escape. They offered clarity. They taught that meaning is not something we find by accident. It is something we cultivate through reflection and purposeful living. In a culture that urges us to consume, to distract, to run faster, the choice to slow down and seek meaning is radical. It is the first step toward a life that feels true. And in that truth, we may find not just clarity, but peace. Not just identity, but belonging. Not just a reason to keep going, but a reason to be fully alive. Forgive to understand, understand to heal. Many of our deepest wounds come not from events, but from people. Words that cut, actions that betrayed, silences that hurt more than noise. These moments leave scars that linger, shaping how we see others and how we see ourselves. The Stoics did not deny the harm that others can cause, but they taught us to respond with understanding rather than hatred. They reminded us that people act from their own pain, confusion, and ignorance. When we begin to understand this, we create space for compassion. Forgiveness does not mean we excuse the harm or forget what happened. It means we choose to free ourselves from the burden of resentment. Holding on to anger may feel like protection, but it only deepens the wound. To forgive is to release ourselves from the grip of the past. It is to reclaim power over our own emotional world. Understanding leads to healing, not because it justifies what was done, but because it returns us to ourselves. The Stoics believe that peace of mind is found not in changing others, but in changing how we relate to them. When we look at another person and see their humanity, their struggle, their imperfection, we soften. And in that softening, we heal. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is an act of strength. It allows us to live with open hands, not clenched fists. It teaches us that, in the end, the most important relationship we heal is the one we have with ourselves. Stoicism is not coldness. Emotions are meant to be understood, not erased. One of the most common misconceptions about Stoicism is that it teaches us to suppress or eliminate emotions. People imagine the Stoic as emotionless, detached, untouched by joy or sorrow. But this is not the truth. The Stoics did not reject emotion. They sought to understand it. They believed that emotions are natural responses, but not always reliable guides. When left unchecked, emotions can lead us into fear, rage, or despair. But when examined with clarity, they can become powerful teachers. Stoicism invites us to create space between emotion and reaction, to feel without being consumed, to respond without being controlled. This is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming wise. A Stoic feels pain but does not become the pain. A Stoic may feel anger but does not act blindly from it. By observing our emotions, we begin to understand their roots and patterns. We see how they rise from our thoughts, beliefs, and expectations. With this awareness, we gain the ability to choose our response. Not every emotion must be obeyed. Not every feeling defines who we are. Stoicism gives us the tools to engage with our emotions without being ruled by them. It teaches that strength lies not in denial but in discernment. To feel deeply and still act wisely is not a contradiction. It is mastery. And in that mastery, we find freedom not from emotion but through it. We do not need to control everything. We only need to learn how to control ourselves.